Phantom Forces just recently, at the time that I was writing for this video, had an update where it added a new map called Mirage. The update page for it, being a single line, says that it's suited for long-range combat. That is entirely true. Mirage is set in multiple in-construction office buildings, or something of the likes of that. Sightlines are long and heavy, with lots of verticality from buildings and various cranes spread around the map. It almost seems like a dream for snipers, being able to hold a high-up position and fire at enemies in multiple positions, something other maps just simply don't offer, maybe except for Ruins, but I haven't played enough Ruins. Except Mirage pales on terms of other things. A large problem with Mirage is that it largely doesn't have a focal point. A focal point is just basically an area in the map in which players can go to and expect to see combat a lot. This is most of the time the midpoint of an area. For other maps that have focal points in Phantom Forces would be maps such as Suburbia or Metro, which they have middle areas in which players can always go to and expect to see firefights happen. Mirage largely doesn't have a focal point though. There's a middle building that kinda acts as a focal point, but it's largely just used by snipers who want to shoot into the enemy team's spawn or people on the road. This lack of focal point makes Mirage feel really unfocused, having battles happen on the side buildings rather than really anywhere concentrated. This also makes a lot of the areas on Mirage feel useless to use. The two cranes that are present on the map rarely get ever used, due to the buildings being a lot more inopportune, and the cranes are just way too open and hard to get to really make a good difference. The highway is also rarely used, mostly because there's very little cover on it anyways, and again, the buildings are, much more opportune for sniping or anything. And plus, the way it's positioned makes it feel more on the side of things rather than a piece of it. The underground parking lot never really gets used too. Instead, if you decide to go down there, you're probably going to be just running for a whole minute, not really seeing anything. And it doesn't even really work as a flank point, and it's not really needed anyway. If you really want to flank someone, you'll probably make a beeline through the middle building and then head straight towards the enemy spawn. Another problem I have with Mirage is that there's no really defining features of it. A lot of the areas where you're going to be fighting in is either on the road or in the construction building. The construction buildings don't really have a whole lot going to them to make them feel unique to each other. Phantom Forces usually makes areas feel unique with unique geometry or coloring. Highway Lot has unique architecture to it and uses colorings to let you know where you are in the area. Suburbia also somewhat does this with the coloring of buildings being team colored in a way. The Crane Lot also has unique architecture, with every area being unique to each other. This prevents players from getting lost and allows them to make a mental image of what the entire map looks like in their head. Mirage's office buildings, however, are really confusing and very generic. They all kind of blend in with each other. I found myself spawning multiple times and having to actually look around the entire map to really get a feel of where I actually am. Being inside each building, it's just a guess of where you actually are. Real signifying areas of where you actually are is mostly on the top parts of the buildings where you can see everywhere else. You have to actually look around to really get a feel of where you are, which isn't really that great. I'd have to say King of the Hill works better on this map. As the control point rests in the middle building, it creates a sort of focal point for players to go to. It does improve it slightly, but not really enough to really make a huge difference. And I've yet to actually play Flare Domination, but I don't really know how Flare Domination would work on this map. So overall, Mirage is pretty unfocused, and it really turns into a battle of who can camp each other's spawns the most, getting snipers from behind each other, and, sniping each other. So that's really it that I have to say about Mirage. I don't really have a closing thing for this. Bye.